Good evening, Wood County. I'm Brooke Ebersole, General Manager here at BG24 News. Every week, we bring you the stories that matter most on campus, in the community, across the state, and across the nation. The Producers Panel is where we take a step back and talk about these stories in our own opinion. But these opinions do not reflect the views of the organization and do not impact the way we cover these or any other stories. Tonight, we'll discuss how effective the smoking ban is on campus here. Then we'll discuss our thoughts on two sport athletes and one particularly here on campus. We're finally talking about the reopening of the Toledo Zoo Aquarium. It's all here on your BG24 News Producers Panel. Thanks again for joining us tonight on Producers Panel. I'll take a minute and introduce our panel here. To my right is executive producer here, Matt Heitkamp, and to my left is sports director, Katie Werke. Thanks for joining me tonight, guys.
Thanks for having us.
No problem.
Just over a year ago, BGSU's campus started its clean air policy. This means that students are allowed to smoke in designated areas only. The policy, however, is not being enforced as much as some would like. The university is now reevaluating the policy. I was so excited when this policy, came into play and they were saying, okay, people aren't going to smoke outside all of the buildings anymore, and I was, okay, that's great, we're not polluting everybody else's lungs. And then nothing happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have those signs up there and, they make these announcements, and that's what they're reevaluating is the fact that not too many people know about this, and they think that that's the reason why people are still smoking on campus is because when they even do get reported, I mean, it's not like they can be, prosecuted by the campus for it, but it's not happening because people, they can't just report everyone.
Right. Someone also told me that the way this policy is worded or way it's laid out, it's supposed to be student enforced?
Yeah, there's like some text or something that you can send that says, hey, I'm seeing people smoke here. And that is happening, but what do you do after that? You can't just be like, okay, who, when, where, how, and so that's why it's not being enforced as so much. But I know a lot of campus officials not thinking that it needs to be enforced as much as just, to educate students about the policy.
Okay, yeah, because I had a professor tell me that you're supposed to walk up to them and say, I would appreciate it if you didn't smoke here, I'm trying to learn or whatever. I was like, I'm not going to say that to someone. I'm not trying to make an enemy.
I think the biggest thing with the smoking policy too, though, is if you are walking around campus and you don't like someone smoking near you, walk another way or walk past them. There's no reason why you can't get out of their way because if you're outside, it's not like they're smoking in a classroom like they did in the 70s.
Yeah.
Like it's a little different now. And it's outside. I mean, where else are people supposed to smoke if they can't smoke outside?
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. I mean, I think that people should be allowed to smoke on campus, and if someone's bothered by it, they can say something or they can walk another way. I think the whole thing is just a way for the campus to make them look better. We're a smoke-free campus,
clean
which now
air
campus is now every campus have to say that, and they have to at least try to enforce that just to almost look good, whether or not it's actually important to them.
Well, they started that, BG green, and now, it kind of, I think, coincides with this clean air, we're going to be environmentally friendly. Not that cigarette smoke is really the thing that's damaging the ozone, but...
And obviously, like the butts too, laying around all over campus. That could have a little bit to do with it. And I can understand that, not having to, because obviously people have to go in and clean those up. So then that could have a lot to do with it too.
I mean, I think personally that's the only problem that I've ever had with smoking is that the cigarette butts are just everywhere. They're in the grass, they're on the sidewalk, and it's gross, first of all, and then it's not environmentally friendly. I mean, we have all those little squirrels running around campus, What if one of them eats it? I don't know. But it's not so much the fact that it's the smoke. The cigarette butts, I think, does play a part, but I think that's the only problem that I really have with the smoking on campus is that just throw away the cigarette butts.
Yeah, and they're not easy to pick up either because I worked for campus ops and had to clean up like places where there was a lot of them. It's just a pain and it's disgusting just to clean up. Really.
Well, and I'm sure something that the university is concerned about is the way it looks to people that are coming, and
Right.
they are right now potential Bowling Green students or
Yep.
potential Falcons, but they see, oh my gosh, this campus is filthy with cigarette butts and everybody smokes here. I don't want to come here.
Yeah, and it's not with the parents too. They don't want necessarily their kids going to a campus that says, oh, we can smoke wherever we want, and it's obvious. Where if they have these signs that say no smoking, this is a clean air policy, it might make them feel more good about their kid going to school, and especially if they don't want them to smoke.
And I think it's important to think about how is it going to affect the people that work here, the faculty as well, because there are faculty that smoke, but there are also faculty that I know, have health concerns, maybe they're older, and I think that was probably part of this clean air initiative. Let's think about the people that, their lungs maybe aren't as healthy and cannot spring back as easily from having to walk through the steps of the education building where 6 kids are lighting their cigarettes up.
It's still a big campus though, and there's a lot of outdoor space, and Bowling Green's pretty windy, so that's smoke is gonna blow away anyway.
Very windy.
So I just don't see there being that much of a problem with people smoking outside, and I do think that the ban is maybe sort of a step to try and recruit kids to come here, because like we've said, if they do see that it's clean, then oh yeah, I'll come here. But smoking was never a factor in me coming to Bowling Green or any college that I was looking at.
That wasn't really something that I noticed or didn't notice about other colleges I toured. You're on a campus with kids from 18 to 23. They're going to smoke cigarettes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, coming up when we return, we'll discuss 2 sport athletes in college sports and one particular here on BG's campus. Stay with us. You don't often see athletes participate in 2 different sports in college. However, this year, freshman Cody Calloway is on both the Falcon football and baseball teams.
Freshman Cody Calloway couldn't choose between the football turf or the baseball dirt when coming to Bowling Green. So he chose both.
I just can't pick between one or the other. Both of them, they're just such a big part of my life.
He made his first appearance at Bowling Green on the football field, even making his presence known at the MAC Championship. But now, as the seasons change, he's moving over to the baseball diamond. Playing third base for the Falcons, Calloway is getting used to playing collegiate-level baseball. But his time on the football field has given him a trait that carries over to the dugout.
He brings great leadership qualities. Okay, being a quarterback on a football team, you must have leadership qualities, and I think that's something that's really important. The guys realize that he is a good athlete.
Calloway says switching daily between football and baseball can be tough on his arm, but he loves both sports too much to let one go.
In high school, coming into college, I was trying to make the decision, do I want to play one or the other, but it was just, I couldn't do it. They're both so equal to me, and I just have a passion for both.
That passion has earned Calloway a spot on 2 Falcon rosters this year. For BG24 Sports, I'm Katie Wernke.
That is a pretty significant accomplishment to be able to keep your grades up and be a significant contributor in both of these teams.
Sports.
It is. Cody Calloway, basically what went on in the package is Cody Calloway, he's a freshman at Bowling Green. He was actually drafted by the Indians out of high school, but he had a passion for both sports that he's had his entire life. So he chose to come to Bowling Green to play football and also baseball. His dad actually played baseball for Bowling Green as well. So he plays both sports. We saw him on the football field. He made an appearance in the MAC Championship. He played during a few games last year, and he also starts in a few games for the Falcon baseball team now.
Yeah, and it's like you were saying, that has to be so demanding because, especially in college sports nowadays, it takes a lot out of you to do twice because those are year-long, basically, activities.
It absolutely is. We've seen too, even now, once the football season ends, it ended in January, December with the bowl game, and then spring practice right away in February. So,
jeez, and I grew up in gymnastics, which is super hard on your body. I can't imagine playing baseball isn't really a contact sport, but it is a severe, heavy duty, put in your all kind of sport. It's no golf. It's hard work, and as is football. And I'd like to know, does he have any kind of long-term injuries from that? I think in that package he talks about his shoulder a little bit, doesn't he?
He talks about, I don't think he's had any long-term injuries that I know of, but in that package he did talk about how with football you use one arm slot, in baseball it's another arm slot. So it's tough to go from football to baseball, especially now when football is going on, and then the next, maybe 2 hours later he might have to go to a baseball game. So he said the transition is tough throwing every day because, quarterback and third baseman, those are two positions where it involves a lot of throwing, obviously.
Yeah.
So he said it is tough on his arm, but he wouldn't rather do anything else.
Did he indicate whether he preferred one or the other?
He really didn't. I had actually asked him, why didn't you just stick with one or the other? And he said that there was nothing like walking under the lights at a football game and hearing the crowd, but he's just had a passion for both that's lived on through, for his entire life.
Yeah.
And football and baseball, those are two sports where if we do see two-sport athletes, it's usually those two. Because, there's plenty of examples like Russell Wilson, among others, who have played both baseball and football in college, and not so much today as in professional sports because that's really not even allowed. But like in the past with like Bo Jackson, we would see stuff like that often with football and baseball.
Absolutely. In college, it's died down significantly, but you do still have those athletes. You mentioned, we have RG3. There's Russell Wilson, like you mentioned, Colin Kaepernick, Johnny Manziel, and a lot of these players were even drafted by MLB teams. I know Johnny Manziel was drafted by the Padres. So I think baseball and football are two sports that are similar enough to where you can play both of them. While it is hard, physically and I'm sure mentally as well, you do have.
Yeah, and there are, from what I understand, study hours and grade requirements to be able to play both of these sports, and obviously he has maintained those because he's playing, which I think is a significant accomplishment.
Oh yeah, and another athlete that talking about these two-sport athletes was Jameis Winston, the Heisman winner, national championship winner, who also played baseball and contributed decently to that team, and now is going on to the NFL. So we see these athletes every now and then attempt to keep it going, but I think it definitely takes it's a rare gift to be able to do that.
Absolutely, and I think once you get to the pro level too, it's sort of it's really almost impossible to go into both sports because it's just so demanding in one
I thought
sport.
it was impossible in college until you interviewed this kid.
I know I wouldn't be able to.
Oh,
One interesting thing too, when I had talked to Coach Danny Schmitz from the baseball team, he had said that in his time coaching at Bowling Green, he's coached a few two-sport athletes, mainly football and baseball, but one of them actually was baseball and hockey, which that's an interesting combination of sports.
Which I'm sure at some point in that season they overlap a little bit,
because baseball starts in March here. That games start in March. Practices start well beyond then, and then the hockey season can go into April. If you make the tournament, but even just the conference tournaments go into March.
Yeah.
And another thing I think you got to think about is how these coaches are allowing these athletes to do this. Because I know if I had someone, like you think about like Jameis Winston, for instance, who was a Heisman winner, he's good, going off to play another sport, you don't want them to get injured. You don't want them to, get hurt. And that's like with Russell Wilson, after winning a Super Bowl, him getting offered to play baseball, they said, yeah, you can be officially on the team, but you can't play because, they're paying him so much money. They don't want him to get hurt, because he's the face of that franchise.
Yeah, I think that's another big factor that goes into it too, is when you're relying on this one person like Russell Wilson, who is such an asset to the Seahawks, and to have him go play another sport and maybe get injured, and then who's your quarterback for the Seahawks? Who's going to lead you to that Super Bowl again? I think that's a big factor into it. But Coach Schmitz had said that him and Coach Babers have worked really well together, and they've it's been rather easy.
Oh, that's good.
And he actually asked if we can mention on air that he wants to thank Coach Babers for being able to work with Callaway and make sure that he can play both sports and stay on top of his studies. So he said it's been a good time so far.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting here to see, in the coming years, if he's got to make a choice or if he'll be able to, all the way up until graduation, if he'll be able to stick with both.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll have to see.
Definitely.
Well, coming up when we return, the Toledo Aquarium was reopened this past weekend. We have an inside look at the opening ceremonies. Stay with us. The city of Toledo reopened a beloved tourist attraction at the Toledo Zoo. The aquarium was reopened after being missed for almost 3 years. Reporter Nick Dombey traveled up to the Glass City for the opening ceremony.
The Toledo Zoo closed their aquarium for renovations in the fall of 2012. At first glance, the building looks as it did when it opened in 1939, but the interior is completely new. With nearly 4 times as much water, aquatic creatures from all parts of the world can be seen. One of the highlights is the Reef, a 90,000-gallon tank with 3 species of shark and hundreds of fish. Director of Public Relations Andy Norman says how far they have come.
Yeah, the aquarium project has been in the making for more than a decade, between the planning, funding, construction, demolition, renovation. It's a long time coming.
While a new interior was the main part of the project, preserving the original exterior was just as important. New exhibits like the flooded forests of the Amazon and the Gulf of Mexico showcase aquatic animals from that region. Visitor David Gauthier says which part he enjoyed the most.
Of all the things, what's your favorite part of the new aquarium?
I would say the one part of the aquarium where they have the sea turtle.
Employees were just as excited as guests during the opening ceremony, and Norman was happy to speak on behalf of everybody who was involved in the renovations.
Well, all of us here at the Toledo Zoo are thrilled to be able to open the doors on the new aquarium, because everybody's worked so hard for so long. And the end result, the big reward for us, is seeing everybody come in and enjoy themselves and just be wowed.
The Toledo Zoo is hoping the newly renovated aquarium brings more enjoyment to its community members.
Reporting from the Toledo Zoo for BG24 News, I'm Nick Dombey.
Well, Nick, I would say based on that footage and based on what you've said about it, all of these renovations, were worthwhile.
Oh yeah, they definitely were. And like I said, I'm from Toledo, so it was really nice to go up there. Like when they closed it, I mean, it was a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Really?
I remember, like normally we're all like, oh, we don't want more taxes, but when about 10 years ago in 2005, the city of Toledo said, hey, can we put a tax out for a new aquarium? Everyone was just kind of like, oh, okay, we're fine with that.
So, like, was that a long process then for them to, reconstruct all of this? Do you know how long that took? Or
Well, it closed in the fall of 2012, and one of the large processes they had to deal with was they had to get the fish out of the tanks, put them in holding tanks, and while they redid it, because the building was originally constructed between 1936 and 37 for the Works Program Administration, the WPA, part of the New Deal, and that's a lot of the buildings, the aviary, a lot of the older buildings are still like that. And the aquarium was the one that looked dated the most. So they wanted to keep the outside, like I said in the package, and then the inside was just completely brand new.
Yeah, but that's really cool. So out of all the different, features they had there, what do you think was the coolest, or what was the most interesting?
I mean, I said they have something for everybody. Like my camera guy, he liked the deep sea creatures. Like they have these like Japanese spider crabs that they scare me because they're freaky looking. But one of the things I love is you saw the diver in the video. It's a live diving show. Like the guy has a microphone in his breathing mask.
His suit. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So he's actually able to talk and be like, yeah, so I'm feeding the fishes, and he's squirting like this food out the can. You see all the fish just come and swarm.
I know, I'm from Columbus, and our aquarium at one time was something to be spoken highly about, and they had this show where they would just throw lettuce at the manatees, and that was just the coolest thing on earth. So to hear someone's getting in the water with a microphone on and step by step explaining what they're doing, I mean that's almost like something that's a thing of the future.
Oh yeah, although I'd love to see that with the manatees. Those are my favorite.
Oh,
sea
they're
creatures of
so
all
cute.
time.
They're so much fun. But that little boy was cute too. That the sea turtles were his favorite.
Oh yeah, I mean not even that. He was a huge shark guy. Although he didn't really want to talk much about the sharks, so he was like, yeah, they got the little great whites and the tiger sharks swimming around, and the sharks that are in that reef where the diver is, they're eventually going to grow up to be 3 to 4 feet in size.
Oh.
And their goal is, they say that if they do these dives every single day, like a couple of dives a day, the sharks will be friendly and they won't attack the divers.
Right, yeah, that's really cool.
Get them while they're young and kind of accustom them to human contact. That makes sense. It's kind of like what people say about pit bulls. You can train them to be vicious or you can train them to be sweet and kind. So I suppose that's the same concept with a shark, I hope.
I mean, a little more extreme.
Yeah, the only aquarium I've ever been to was I was younger. It was down by Cincinnati area, so I need to definitely go again, go to this. And I remember growing up, my favorite parts were always the penguins, obviously, because I thought those were the coolest things, is just see them going around and whatnot.
Yeah, that was one of the shots that we weren't able to include in the package, but they moved the penguins outside of the new aquarium, and the way they built that exhibit, like they have the bricks done up, you would have thought that that was built in 1939 with the aquarium. It looks to the point, like it isn't just like a new addition, but I tried to get an interview with the penguin, and we have some footage of that downstairs, where I was just like, "Hi, can you tell me about your day?" Because it was cold out. I'm like, "So you enjoying the cold temperatures?" And I hold it out, and this penguin just kind of looks at the camera like, it just walks off, and I'm just like, tough crowd.
Tough crowd, yeah.
Not the best interviewee.
That was a great opportunity for you to do that, and that package turned out really well.
Thank you.
Coming up when we return, we'll wrap up our show and talk about the annual tradition that takes place on the first day of April. Stay with us. Well, we all know it's the first day of April, and on the first day of this month comes April Fool's Day. I go back and forth. I remember I used to get so excited about this day when I was a kid. And my favorite thing to do, this is going to sound so dumb, but my dad would pick me up from school. You know, I was probably in 3rd grade, and I would tell him that there was a deer in the road because he wasn't watching the road, and he would slam on the brakes, and I just thought that was so funny, and he would get so upset and so angry, and that was my trick of the trade every year. It never changed.
It was definitely a thing, like growing up was always a big deal. Like, oh, it's April Fool's Day, I gotta do something with my parents, tell all my friends at school, just to, try to get a laugh, and everyone's going back and forth getting each other, and then obviously you don't see too much of it nowadays. I mean, I'll see things on like social media, be like, professional athletes saying that they're hurt or something like that. But besides that, now I don't really see it as much anymore, but it's still.
You said it was Tom Brady, I think,
I did.
Right?
There was this on ESPN this morning that Tom Brady photoshopped something about him being in a complete body cast, trying to do a Michael Jordan crossover, just to get a laugh out of some people.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of on social media, oh my gosh, they're taking X show off Netflix. Like that is the modern day April Fool's joke. Oh my gosh, everybody just
click the link and it's like April Fool's.
Yeah, it's something funny and I think it is funny how much social media and the internet and all this technology has kind of changed this holiday. When we were little, you fell down on the ground and poured ketchup on yourself like you were bleeding, and that was so funny. But now, I mean, your joke isn't anything unless you incorporate social media.
Right. Yeah. You had your whoopee cushions or pulling the chair out of someone. A lot more physical violence it seems to be, and today it's more of doing stuff with computers and Photoshop, and that's just pranking in general.
Right. It gets more high tech and more high tech every time.
Yeah, that's why I think for April Fool's Day, for me, I kind of sit back and let other people do the jokes because I'm always the jokester, going around being a fool year-round. So this is my day off for people to go and do their own jokes. But you can't go wrong with a classic whoopee cushion.
With a classic whoopee cushion.
Yeah. I like the ones that inflate themselves. Like, they have those. As opposed to, ones you have to keep blowing up. It's like a little hole in them, and they just go right back up.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that's all for BG24 News Producers Panel tonight. We certainly covered a lot today. We talked about, this clean air thing that I really do hope kind of takes off here, and then obviously April Fool's Day, and then Cody Callaway, who I'm excited to see what he does here in the coming years. I think that he can be a force to be reckoned with here at Bowling Green. I really do. Make sure you check out these stories and more on our website and our Facebook page. And feel free to tweet us your thoughts about these stories and issues. Have a good night, everyone.